Hi everyone, welcome back to the French Football Podcast. Name is Jeremy, of course, and I'm here to talk about French football as usual. See, I already put the first title down there, so we know what we're going to talk about. Welcome to the French Football Podcast, the first episode of the start of the season. Really, if you've listened to the French Football Podcast a couple of weeks ago, we did a very big preview with Baptiste from Le Classic Pod. Weekly, I'll come in and I'll just talk about Ligue and French football in general, and we'll spend a bit of a half an hour or more if we have guests to sort of like dissect what happened on the weekend. We're going to start by talking about the women's football. Of course, people might know that I live in Australia, and so the Women's World Cup is here right now. And unfortunately, France against Australia, Australia won at the penalty shootout. That was at the stadium not to watch France Australia, but to watch England against Colombia, the other quarterfinal of that World Cup that England won 2-1. But yeah, I was just outside the stadium when France and Australia was playing, and I couldn't see it on my phone or on the screen. And so I was just listening to the ooh and the ahs, and well, eventually Australia won, so there was more ahs than a. But yeah, as a French guy wearing my French jersey, I was a bit out of place. But look, if we're going to lose against anyone, it'll be against Australia, so that's all right. I still kind of am okay-ish, although I thought France had the team to go and win that World Cup and to add a star on the women's jersey. Anyway, that was what was happening in the world of French football. In the country of French football, in Ligue 1, we had a busy week. Of course, we had round one of Ligue 1 23-24. I'm having a hard time getting used to it, but it's match day one of 34, given we only have 18 teams in Ligue 1 right now. And a lot of happened on the pitch, but a bit happened off the pitch as well. And I had that at the banner before. I'm going to put it back in. Neymar is going and Mbappé is staying, is the latest at Paris. Of course, Paris is going to be talking, we're going to talk a lot about off the field things when we talk about PSG, and everybody has followed the Mbappé saga over the summer. We talked about it at length in our preview with Baptiste, and thank you for anybody who's watched the reels that we posted on Instagram, on Facebook after that. Well, it turns out Mbappé might be staying at Paris Saint-Germain this season. That's the latest announcement that was made. He's back training with the team. If you have heard, he was training aside with the loft, so-called, those players that are not wanted anymore at Paris Saint-Germain. Well, he's just back into the group now and training with the team. Rumors went out, some people saying that he signed until 2025 and will leave on a fee to Real Madrid next year. Some other people saying that he sort of like decided not to get his bonus, his 80 million bonus that he would get if he stays in 2024 in PSG, and then will leave for free next summer. Long story short, he's back training with Paris Saint-Germain, but he will not find his teammate of the past 6 years, the player who arrived at Paris Saint-Germain a week before him in 2018, was it, or 2017? One or the other. 2017, sorry. Neymar has gone to Saudi Arabia. Interesting choice for Neymar Jr. going to Saudi Arabia. He said that he would be back in a year or two in Europe to get ready for the World Cup 2026. But right now, he is going to play for Al Hilal with Koulibaly and with who's there, Ruben Neves, and I think it's Milinkovic-Savic who's there as well, and Malcolm, the former Bordeaux player. So Neymar is in Saudi Arabia. Mbappé is staying in Paris Saint-Germain. Dembele is here ready to play as well. And Paris Saint-Germain, we're going to start with them. If you've seen them playing this weekend, they were playing against Lorient at home, and they started with a draw, a 0-0 draw. But if everybody knows about something with Luis Enrique, is that we're going to see the tiki-taka, and we had a good show of that tiki-taka. Tiki-taka? Am I saying it right? Tiki-taka. Yeah, I'm saying it right. Sorry. We had a good display of that tiki-taka with 1,001 passes made by Paris Saint-Germain, an absolute record since Opta analyzes Ligue 1. And unfortunately for Paris Saint-Germain, on Saturday night, it was 1,001 sterile passes because the game ended up with 0-0, despite a number of chances. Mvogo was in form for Lorient. Lorient, who didn't have any shot on target. They did hit the post once by Laurent Abergel. But the game finished with Paris 78% possession and obviously dominating the game, and Lorient resisting well with that with that very, very defensive setup of five defenders almost on one line. Kalulu, Meite, Laporte, Talbi, and Le Goff trying to resist the relentless assaults of Paris Saint-Germain. When you see what Gonzalo Ramos has done up front for Paris Saint-Germain, when you see what Ugarte can actually bring when he plays well, Lucas Hernandez as well as left back, and Zaire Emery Ujidoke in the midfield, you're wondering who's going to stop Paris Saint-Germain if and when Dembele and Mbappé plays with Gonzalo Ramos. So I think we're in for a pretty unsurprisingly PSG Ligue 1 again. And I think under Luis Enrique, they probably also have a chance to actually do something in the Champions League, unfortunately for the Marseille fan that I am, but good for Ligue 1 and for French football that the best team is actually playing at its best level. So Paris Saint-Germain first game 0-0. I feel like it's going to be one of not too many games where they can't score a goal. And with Mbappé and Dembele back, I think from next week onwards, and they're traveling to Toulouse, it might be complicated for any team to stop Paris Saint-Germain if when they're going to hit form under Luis Enrique. Luis Enrique, who's had a great pre-game press conference. I invite anybody who enjoy conferences to go and have a look at it, because I think it's going to be a problem for the French journalist in the way he answers questions, in the way he doesn't really want to give more than what he wants to give, and sometimes in his I'm not going to say rudeness, but in how he's quite short with what he says. Yeah, it's going to be fun for the journalists in France, I think, to have to deal with Luis Enrique this season. It's going to be not a lot of fun for other coaches facing PSG, who looks as strong as ever, despite, like I said, not scoring a goal this weekend and starting the season with a draw. Team that started on a bang, I'm going to say that, but actually not really, is Marseille. Marseille, who won 2-1 at home against Reims. Marseille, who also has a new coach, of course, Marcelino, who joined in the summer. And, Marseille under Marcelino, we have to see. We don't know yet what it is. Of course, midweek they lost against Panathinaikos in Greece in the third round of the preliminary of the Champions League, and he made a few changes to his team when he played at home on the weekend. Verretou and Kondogbia were the midfielder in Greece, while Rongier was starting next to Kondogbia against Reims. Mugue, I think it's Mugue, the name that we say, a young player from the French academy, started on the right instead of Ismail Assar. And with Balerdi suspended, it was Mbemba next to Gigot defensively. And Marseille were surprised early by Junya Ito, who scored first at the 10th minute. They answered with a superb goal by Azzedine Ounahi. If there's a goal that you're going to watch this weekend, have a look at what Ounahi does. He's given just a bit too much space, and then a quick drag back and a nicely placed shot on the other corner. Marseille eventually won with a goal from Vitinha, the Portuguese striker, who is still the record buy of Marseille, of the history of Marseille, 30-something million. And finally, sort of is proving his worth. Of course, there was the other change compared to Panathinaikos. In Panathinaikos, Aubameyang was started and Vitinha was starting against Reims. And he actually fought really well and ran a lot, Vitinha, during the game against Reims. Now, Marseille as a whole, under Marcelino, we're still on the fence. The jury is still debating. What I've seen against Reims, I didn't really enjoy. It looks like Rongier and Kondogbia have so much work to do. It looks like a 4-2-4 at the best of times, and there's rarely anybody helping Rongier and Kondogbia. And so many times, Reims were able to outnumber Marseille in the midfield, to outnumber the left and the right back, and the press from Marseille was not really well organized, and so it looked definitely not great. It didn't look like a team who knows how to play together yet. It didn't look like a team that was compensating for each other, and Reims in Marseille at the Stade Vélodrome ended with 58% possession, because once Marseille was up to 1, then they sort of like defended a little bit more. So the jury's still out for Marseille under Marcelinho, and what that's going to do in Ligue 1 and in Europe. They're playing against Panathinaikos at Marseille, the Stade Vélodrome, on Wednesday night to try and get a ticket for the playoff game against Braga, the former club of Vitinha. For then, if they win Braga in that two-legged round, they will get to the Champions League, which is obviously the main objective of Marseille in the beginning of the season, is to qualify for that Champions League to get obviously the money in, and also because a club of the stature of Marseille should be able to get to the Champions League when Panathinaikos and Braga are the two teams on their way. Good way to start the season, though, 2-1 against Reims, especially when you're coming back from a goal down. Reims was very close to score 2, 3, 4. So Marseille will be happy to see that defensively they sort of held, but like I said, he was pretty, he looked pretty messy. And one of the positive point was, on the bench when you have Ismail Assar and Amin Harit, Matteo Guendouzi, when they come in, they make a real difference. Jordan Verretou as well. Aubameyang, when he came in, I didn't see much. But having that much talent on the bench is obviously something very positive for Marseille. It means that when they bring in their sub, they're bringing some talents, and that's going to be useful with all the competitions that Marseille will be playing this season. We'll see what can come from Marseille. From Reims, I was impressed. I'm very interested to see what this team is going to do. Little negative points. Wilson Esbrand, the player who was, I think he's on loan from Manchester City, didn't impress me. Actually, was guilty of a few fouls, could have been red carded. But other than that, Ito is in form. Jakite up front looks dangerous. Munetsi Matuziwa, we know how good they are. Richardson, who's just coming back from loan from Le Havre, is going to be a good player. Okumu at the back, tall and strong. Yevan Diouf, as good as he should be, the keeper. So an interesting team, Reims, and a team that I'm looking forward to see. And we have a new Teddy Savanier in the competition as well, with Teddy Thomas. I'm looking forward to that duo between Reims and Montpellier, because Teddy Savanier against Teddy Thomas is going to be a fun duo. But yeah, Teddy Thomas, the new number 10 of Reims, is a player to watch. He was at Union Saint-Gilloise last year, and we talked about him in the preview. The way he came in with Reims against Marseille is going to bring something different for Reims, which is the grinta and the fighting spirit, etc. So we'll see how they end up for Reims, but it was a good start against Marseille. Unfortunately for them, eventually Marseille won at home. The other team that finished at the top of the league last season was Lens, who finished second. And Lens came up in Ligue 1 this season against Brest, away from home. And, we know that Lens has lost Fofana, of course, and Openda up front, but they've made some pretty smart signings. Guilavogui from Paris FC is their new striker, and they got Andy Diouf as a midfielder. And other than that, they really kept the core of their team. More importantly, they kept Brice Samba, Kevin Danso, Francesco Medina, and Jonathan Grady, the keeper and the three defender that made Lens so strong last year. Lens started really well, scored 2 goals in the first half, a missile by Machado and an opportunist goal by Sotoka. And when you're up 2-0 at halftime in Brest, you think that maybe you've done the hardest. But Brest woke up and Brest rebelled. They scored just before the break, so it was 2-1 at halftime. A penalty for Romain Del Castillo to transform. And then Kenny Lala scored a pretty good goal just before the hour mark. Unfortunately for Lens, he went from bad to worse after being equalized by Lala. Adrien Thomasson, who had just come in, got red carded for a foul that didn't have any bad intent, but he lands on the ankle of the Brest player. To be honest, if it's a yellow card, I don't think anybody complains, but the referee showed a red card. And then another penalty at the 87th minute allowed Brest to score the winner via Romain Del Castillo, who scored 2 penalties on Sunday. So not the best start for Lens, who, of course, have sort of, is embracing now a new status as the team who finished second, a point behind Paris Saint-Germain last year, was the team who's going to play Champions League this season in Ligue 1. I think the other teams are waiting for them and are sort of trying to see how can you beat Lens, and Brest sort of shown a blueprint of that by defending well and being present in the midfield, and then basically punishing them whenever they have the opportunity. I don't mind that Brest team under Eric Roy. Satriano, who's on loan from Inter, the Uruguayan striker, didn't do too much, but Jérémy Le Doiron, who was probably had his breakout season last year with Brest, has shown some good disposition. And then that midfield magnet, Yildiz Melu, He's actually a good, experienced fighting midfield. So Brest gets the 3 points against Lens, which is a little bit of a surprise to start our Ligue 1. But I think, more importantly, Lens was up 2 goals and for once were ended up on the wrong side of those games, and that's not going to be easy for Frank S. But I think it's part of enjoying the new status that gives finishing second in the league to a team like Lens. What else do we have this week in Liga? Well, we had Rennes and Monaco, who are now at the top of the table after some convincing wins. Rennes, Baptiste said it. I was halfway about it. But Rennes is definitely probably going to be one of the favorite for the Champions League position at the end of the season. Just as a reminder, with the new Champions League format next year, France would have 3 teams qualified and 1 team going to the playoff. So there's more chances to get to the Champions League. Well, Rennes starting the season the perfect way to stay at the top of the table with a 5-1 win against Metz, who finished second in Ligue 2 last year and so was just newly promoted. Kalimwendo scored at the 20th minute for Rennes. Metz answered straight away by Youssef Maziz. And then in the second half, Rennes scored 4 times in the last 40 minutes. I mean, Guiri, 51st minute, Jeremy Doku, who might be Manchester City inbound at the 67th minute. And then Ibrahim Salah, who had just got subbed in, scored 2 goals in 7 minutes at the 87th and the 94th minute. Rennes dominated head and shoulder. FCMS 71% possession, 29 shots, 14 on target, and Rennes is playing exactly the way we expect them to play. And they've just recruited Nemanja Matic, so Rennes is going to be an interesting team this season. Enzo Lefebvre, the former Lorient player, was starting. Ludovic Blas was suspended, so he didn't start. But the team that Rennes had out there was Omari and Teat in defense in front of Mandanda. Assignon was playing on the right. Belocian was playing on the left. I think Truffert is injured right now, and Melling was on the bench. And then Santa Maria was playing number 6. Unfortunately, a spot that he might lose to Nemanja Matic, with Lefebvre at his left and Bourigeaud at his right. And up front, it was Kalimwendo, Guiri, and Doku, which leave on the bench players like Lovro, Majer, Birger Melling, Desiré Doué, Ibrahim Salah, who scored 2 goals, Baptiste Ablin, Flavien T. We said Matic is coming, Terrier is injured, Blas was suspended. So Rennes has a very, very strong team, and is a team that we expect to be there or thereabout at the end of the season. Plus, they have Europa League to play. Europa League, Rennes? Yes, Europa League to play, excuse me. So it's a very important season for them, and they will want to perform on all the competitions, Liga, Europa League, and Coupe de France. So that's why they have a team that strong. They start the season the right way. Bruno Genesio must be happy. It's going to be about keeping it that way, but I'm not too worried about Rennes, unfortunately. I think they're going to have a pretty good season. Monaco also had a good start. Not that the game started the right way for them, but they ended up the right way with a 4-2 win at Clermont. Clermont, who is deemed to be the surprise of the season after season. Monaco won 4-2 after conceding first a goal from Mateusz Wieteska for Clermont at the 7th minute, and then the equalizer from Vanderson at the 26th minute. Moussam Ben Yedder scored the 2-1 at the 43rd minute. Mohamed Cham answered for Clermont 53rd minute, and then Ben Yedder scored his second goal 70th minute, and Magnus Akliush closed the ball with a goal at the 93rd minute. Monaco under Adi Hutter, same thing. The jury is still out. I don't know what we're seeing. We're seeing, of course, a 3-4-2-1. There's a little bit more possession than what we had last year, or at least that's the intention. But technically, it was poor. And so it's the beginning of the season, and we'll see what happens. And Clermont is a very hard team to play against. And with their impressive tractors, if you see the highlights of that game, the half of the Clermont stadium is being rebuilt. So on the side of the pitch where the camera filmed in, you see I was going to say gold diggers. You see diggers and tractors and stuff like that. So it's not the Farmers League; it's the Builders League now, apparently. Ligue 1, but all very funny jokes apart. Clermont is a very hard team to play. Under since Gastien took over, it's a team that likes to play football and likes to play football well. And so as a result, they had 55% possession against Monaco, and they forced Monaco to 16 fouls against only 7 for Clermont. So clearly they were frustrating their opponents, and they were playing okay. I'm not going to say they didn't deserve to lose because Monaco was clearly better on some opportunities, but Clermont was pushing and really tried to get a good result out of that game. Ben Yedder with a brace. Ben Yedder, who, if you haven't heard, has some issues with the justice right now because he is being accused of sexual assault, if I'm not mistaken. But Monaco said he's innocent until proven guilty, so he'll just keep playing as long as he wants to play, and as long as he doesn't feel like that his head is not in it anymore. I guess in a way good for him, and clearly he's not bothered because he scored 2 goals against Clermont, which is a good way to start for Monaco. In other stadium, we had the first of Strasbourg, the Blueco version of Strasbourg under the Chelsea flag, and Strasbourg won at home 2-1 against Lyon. 2 shots on target, 2 goals for Strasbourg, maximum efficiency. Jean-Reckner Bellegarde, who is sort of like wanted by a few clubs, including Nice, scored at the 63rd minute. Lebo Motiba, the South African, international, scored 12 minutes later, and Nicolas Tagliafico for Lyon reduced the score. I'm yawning, at the 88th minute. Lyon, who should be better. Simple, clear. When you have a team that they have, Tagliafico, Diomande, Charitacha, Mata, who unfortunately got injured early, Clinton Mata, Tolisso, Le Penant, Kakere, middle of the park, Barcola on one side, Cherki on the other, Lacazette up front. Lyon is a better team than losing 2-1 against Strasbourg. They just need to score their goals. Lacazette hit the post. They got a few opportunities to bring the ball forward, and the last pass is never the right one. There's something not going quite right, but you're thinking that with the talent that they have under Laurent Blanc, they're going to make it. So hopefully for them, they make it soon rather than later, because in front of them, Strasbourg, who didn't really play well in the first half. The first half was really dominated by Lyon, and then it looks like they kind of rest on their laurels, and then Strasbourg was able to wake up and to come back and to score 2 goals on 2 opportunities. One of them is a free kick from the side that isn't very dangerous, that just go through every single leg in the box, and then Rémi Riou, who's replacing Anthony Lopez, wasn't able to stop it, surprisingly. So it's Lyon paid their mistakes. They also paid their lack of efficiency, and they faced a very, very efficient Strasbourg team. So not the best way to start for Laurent Blanc this season, but with the talent that they have, like I said, you really expect them to get better results than this. Other first was first of coach Farioli, the coach from Nice, who was facing Lille, and the game ended up with a 1-1 draw, with Gaëtan Laborde scoring first for Nice at the 18th minute. And unfortunately for the team from the south, Lille equalized at the 94th minute by Bafodé Diakité, the defender, who was pretty happy to score that equalizer, giving a point to Lille. Another first. There was so many firsts actually this weekend. Was Nantes against Toulouse, with the Nantes coach. His name always get away from me. Aristouille, who is still the Nantes coach after sort of like taking an interim last year, and Martinez Novel, the new coach from Toulouse, who was an assistant until this season, and Toulouse won 2-1 despite conceding first. Mostafa Mohamed scored on penalty for Nantes, and Abou Khlal equalized at the 62nd minute before Nicolas Sen scored another goal in injury time at 91st minute to give all 3 points to Toulouse. Bad news for Nantes, of course, the defeat, but also losing Alban Lafont with apparently broken ribs and some sort of bruised something, will be out for apparently a couple of months. So Remy Descamps, who was suspended over the weekend, didn't play. Denis Petric came in, but Remy Descamps would be the goalkeeper to replace Alban Lafont for a solid 2 months, which is not going to be easy for Lafont. On the other side, for Toulouse, the new goalkeeper is his name is Rest, Restes, Rest, and a couple of players were playing their first game. Caceres Junior, and who else was it? Oh, San Siro, actually. I think Caceres Junior might have been the only one actually with Rest to play for the first time. But Toulouse, a young Toulouse team that did okay, but was pretty lucky to get doing. I think eventually another team that came from Ligue 2 was Le Havre, and I said during the preview that I rated Le Havre. Le Havre was able to get a draw in Montpellier 2-2 with, you guessed it, another goal in injury time. The first goal scorer was Gauthier Loris, the younger brother of Hugo, at the 5th minute for Le Havre. Then Accor Adams, the new striker for Montpellier, scored twice in 2 minutes, 58th and 60th minute. A new friend for TJ Savanier to give ball to. And then Samuel Grancier, formerly of, I think, Monaco, Los Angeles, and maybe Guingamp, I think, who's now at Le Havre, score a goal at the 90th minute to take a point back to the Northwest. I didn't watch enough of that game to make my opinion on Le Havre, so I'll wait until I talk about it. But good for them that they were able to get a point for their first game. That's it. We've mentioned all the teams that have played the weekend. Yeah, I try to make it as quick as possible. Of course, there's some more football coming in this week in France. I mentioned it. Marseille against Panathinaikos on Wednesday night, Thursday morning here in Australia, which is crucial for Marseille. They lost 1-0 in Greece. They need to get a result. And then over the weekend, Marseille will be the team kicking off the round 2, match day 2 of Ligue 1 with a trip to Metz. Lyon will face Montpellier. Toulouse is hosting Paris Saint-Germain. Lille against Nantes. Reims against Clermont. Lorient against Nice. Le Havre will play Brest. Monaco is hosting Strasbourg. Interesting. And we are finishing with clearly one of the most, the biggest game of this early season. Lens against Rennes, the first game at the Stade Bollaert for the season for Lens, and hosting Rennes is not going to be an easy feat for the player coached by Franck Hez, but I'm sure they'll be okay, and it's going to be definitely a game that nobody wants to miss. Of course, I'll come back next week with more Mercato news. I'm sure there's going to be a few. Hopefully not too many players going to Saudi Arabia. Habib Diallo, the striker from Strasbourg, has left for Saudi Arabia as well. I hope that we're not going to lose too many players to Saudi Arabia over the summer. We've already lost enough, and you know, I know that we always replace our talent with youth, but we like to keep our good Ligue 1 player here in France. Thanks for listening to the French Football Podcast. I look forward to another episode next week. Don't hesitate to subscribe, rate, ask question, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys next week for sure. Yo.